Thanks everyone for joining me. My name is April with the Travel Collective, and I'm excited to have a new episode, a little bit of everything. I'm talking to Michelle today, and she's been doing some solo travel. She's got a beautiful website, so she also enjoys photography. So I think we're going to have a great conversation. So welcome, Michelle.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, April. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. So I recently have been thinking about the topic of wanderlust and
hmm
where for some of us we've always had that urge to travel. I know for myself, I can think back to my childhood almost and pinpoint that desire to get out and explore even when maybe my parents weren't taking us very far or anything like that, but just that whole idea. And conversely, people that I don't think are as curious or don't need to travel, they're completely comfortable, just in their surroundings. I had a uncle that he was a farmer. He just was like comfortable. He never left the state. He barely left his town. So it was just this dynamic that kind of I think about. So talk to me about wanderlust for you and how you feel about that, maybe where it started.
I have always loved to travel. Whenever I was younger, we didn't travel as much, but I can remember when I went on my first trip that was without my parents, and that was we went to New York City, and that was one of my favorite trips. I went with friends, and I really love doing that. And my husband and I also love to travel together. We go to a lot of different places, and we like to go to art museums and botanical gardens and just be able to explore a lot of that and see what is there. And he is my favorite travel companion.
Oh, well, that's good.
hmm
That is great. So talk to me a little bit about solo travel because again, I there's a lot of women and I don't know why. It seems like we're hearing a lot about women doing this more traveling. Again, I don't know why or where that comes from, but talk to me about how you
Right.
feel about solo travel and have you done a lot of it? Do you like it?
I have not done a whole lot of solo traveling. I am not able to drive because of my learning disability, and there's some other processing issues that I have. So I was never really had that experience of packing up the car and going on a trip. But over the summer, a friend of mine invited me to come and help her out at a Down syndrome convention. And it was a last minute trip, and my husband was working. And this was my first, I thought, I'm going to try this. I'm going to go on this trip. And I'm not an experienced flyer by any means. Over the summer, that was only my second flight that I've ever been on.
Oh, wow.
The first was with my husband, and I thought, I'm going to do this. And one of the things that I did was I looked into all the programs that were available because I knew going on this trip, it was nerve wracking a little bit for me, and especially for my parents. And I can remember my dad telling me not to talk to strangers, and my mom was a nervous wreck before I did that. But I looked for a lot of programs that were out there. And one of them was I had a flight ambassador for Pittsburgh International Airport. And she will take you through the different parts of the airport and make sure that's a seamless experience.
Oh, wow.
And I use the Hidden Sunflower program, the lanyard, which indicates you have a hidden disability, and that if somebody sees you with that, that they're to regard you with that person just might need an extra help, a little bit of extra help. And I also had the chance to talk to the airline about pre-boarding, and it was a successful trip. I met my friend in Orlando. We had a great time with going to the conference, with doing our exhibit for them, and I got home safely as well. So it was a good experience, and I wrote an article about that as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, for some of us, because I'm not familiar with the sunflower program. Do you want to
Mhm.
elaborate a little on that? Because there
Sure.
may be listeners that too, they may be in a similar situation. And until you hear about something, you just think, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I think we're seeing
Uh-huh.
that you can do it. You just have to sometimes have the tools, know who to ask and how to navigate it.
Right. Well, the Hidden Sunflower program is accepted in a lot of major airports, bus stations. They even have it in stores outside of the United States. And it's a lanyard that's for free that you can purchase. And if somebody has that on, their places are trained on what to do. Just somebody might just need a little extra assistance, not maybe uh, something major, but just might need a little extra time, might need some extra help. And that was one of those things that it put my parents at ease too. Because my mom was like, so what are the programs that are available? And I was able to tell her, well, I'm going to be using this. And it was a new program for Pittsburgh International Airport. In fact,
Oh,
my flight
good.
and back, yeah, she handed me my a nice little bag that had uh, some information about. They had a sensory room at the airport. I got a plane that was in their little toy plane, and she also handed me my lanyard. And it was interesting because when we went through TSA, they had me take off my lanyard
Oh,
and you go through security. And
right.
even my ambassador was like, okay, this is a little out there. And but I mean, it all worked out really well. But on the way home, I they let me go through security and they just scanned it when I went out of the thing, and that was fine. But it really helps just to be able to tell because people can't see that I have a disability.
Right.
And right. So sometimes I could get lost or I could might have some confusion about something or just trying to process information. And that can be hard for a person that doesn't even have a disability. But when you have a hidden one, it's really difficult. And that's what the Hidden Sunflower program does.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And the same thing with the ambassadors too, that
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of individuals. The airports are big and confusing, and they just may need a little extra time or someone to help them navigate to get to where they need to be. So that's really good to ask for that.
Yes, definitely.
So talk to me about New York City. You said you would go back there multiple times if you could.
Well, yes, we have. That has been definitely a favorite of mine. That was whenever I was in my 20s. That was our first trip I went to with friends, and we just fell in love with it. I did with going and seeing the museums and going and just seeing a different life and just having all the different things that's so different from the small town that we live in. And we would go back every year on a bus trip for a number of different years with, and yeah, same group of friends. And throughout the years, things have changed. We don't go back every year as a group, but that is one of the things. My husband and I on our honeymoon, that was our honeymoon, was New York City. And we have gone back, not as much now, but before we would just go back, and we just love just experiencing that. There's always something interesting to do. And never, like, I can remember my mom saying, well, you never know, you might get bored of doing that. And because she couldn't understand, why do you want to go every year?
Yeah.
And there's always something different that's happening. They'll have a new exhibit, or there'll be a new show, or they'll just maybe even have just a different piece of art on the street, or just a new restaurant. And that was one of our favorite things to do, was to just go and explore and see what they have.
And New York for a lot of people I think could be overwhelming. Just all
Mm-hmm.
the noise, the action, just navigating the subway, the buses. I mean, it's not a place I think I'd want to rent a car as such. I think I would.
No, you mainly people walk or they take the bus or the subway. And we took the subway rather than a cab a lot of times, and we got to know a little bit about the subway system. Not a whole lot. We've had some train rides where we're like, oh, where are we going? It's really late. And
Yeah.
but I mean, you just, yeah, you get that chance to be able to to do that and to walk a lot of places, which I love walking. That's always been something that I like to do. And sometimes we would even stay in New Jersey and take the train into the
Oh,
city as well,
okay. Yeah.
which that helped out. That was nice too.
Right, right. So when you go to New York City, have you stayed in different parts of the city, or is there a place you generally like to stay so you can see most of the things, or?
Right. We stayed in different parts. The first couple years, it was with Midtown. We had a nice hotel there. We've also stayed in Times Square, and with my husband and I, we've stayed in Brooklyn. We went to the Botanical Garden one year for his birthday,
Oh,
and that was my
no.
first time ever going to the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. So that was a lot of fun, and the art museum.
Oh, nice. Great. So photography. Talk to me about photography. When did you kind of get into photography? I know you sell your photos, you have a
Mhm.
website for your photos. So talk to me about photography.
I can remember I took a picture when I was a teenager at prom, and it was of a tree at the venue we were at. And my peers were like, "Why'd you take a picture of a tree?" And I was in an adult writing group, and I took my
Oh,
picture. And there was an older woman that ran the group, and she said, "Oh, this picture, it shows perspective." And I thought, "Oh, I like to write. I didn't think that I could do art or photography. Could not draw I cannot draw a straight line." And I put that aside for a number of years. And I was at a family wedding with my husband a few years ago, and we stopped at a cemetery where they had these beautiful angel statues. And I took a picture of it. And I had a friend that saw, and she looked at my pictures and she said, "These are really good." And this friend was really particular about everything. And I thought, well, if she likes it, this passed the test. And I entered it into a photography show, and I think I got honorable mention, and that encouraged me to enter my work into other shows. And then I started noticing people would tell me, "You bring out details and flowers that I would miss." And I would notice that if I was on a walk or if I was with my husband in the car, because I can't drive, I would sit in the passenger seat, and I'd say, "Did you see that?" And he'd be focused on the road. Now he's getting a little bit better about this because he hears all these talks, but I got a chance to see a flower, and that's something I would miss if I was driving. And then later, I get that chance to go back if it's local and take that picture of a flower and be able to share it with other people as well.
yeah, that's beautiful. So when did you start your Michelle's Mission? Do you want to tell us about Michelle's Mission?
Sure. I started my blog a few years ago. I was writing disability articles before that. I had a friend told me years ago, "You should really write about having a learning disability." And I said, "Oh, I don't know, that's too personal." And when I finally got the courage to write my first article, it was about my struggle to open up locks because I have limited hand dexterity as well. And when I finally got that I couldn't unlock my door. And
Oh,
I found a prompt that was on the Mighty, and it said, "What is a seemingly easy task for other people, but is really hard with your disability?" And I thought, "Oh, this is perfect." And I wrote about it, and I had a really good response. A lot of people were saying, "Well, that's my story. That's
right.
something that I struggle with." And after I got that published, it just encouraged me to start my own blog. And last year, I added a store to my blog as well, so people can purchase my photography.
Nice. Oh, I love that. So where do you think you want to go next? I mean, now that you did one solo trip, is it something you would want to do again?
I would definitely like to do it again, but I would also, of course, love to take my husband. I think I would like to do Canada, with going out like with Niagara Falls, with taking getting crossing that off my bucket list. I've never traveled outside the United States, so I'd like to do that. And just visiting interesting places and just getting out there, because I sometimes I just think life is too short to let a disability or something else step in your way of seeing the world.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, that's when I started the podcast, was just realizing there's
Hmm.
so many different ways to travel, and there's like a lot of things. There's no right way to travel, there's no wrong way to travel, but just literally if it's something that you desire to do, there are ways
Hmm.
to do it. You may have to like research a little or, find what works for you. Not everybody likes to fly, so maybe road trips
Right.
are something that you enjoy, or
Hmm.
going in a guided bus tour or something. But there's so many more options now than I think that we had in the past. So it's mainly just
Yes.
taking time and researching and hearing from travelers like you too, to know that it's possible. Especially solo travel. I know a lot of women that enjoy that kind of
Mhm.
going off on their own and having their own
Yeah.
time. Whereas for me, I think my solo travel is kind of limited. I think I spend a lot of time on my own as it is. So, it's
Yeah.
sharing the experience is something I really look forward to. Is like, hey, did you see that? Or, sharing the
Yeah.
just the whole experience of
Hmm.
travel.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you mentioned there's places you wouldn't go. Are there any of those places? The globe is wide open, but we all have places we're like, well, that's further down the list.
I would probably say a lot of rural areas. I grew up in one, and it was great if you could drive, but if you didn't have a ride or you couldn't drive, and
Oh,
I don't think I would want to live somewhere that would be far out from a lot of things. And plus, even when I go on trips, I like to. I'm not the kind of person that could sit on the beach for 3 days straight. I like to be able to do other things. I like to see museums. I like to be able to go to shows and be able to uh, gardens and things like that, and just see what the town has to offer, along with the beach too. I think that can be fun as well, but just one day of it.
yeah, exactly. Wow. So if people have questions or they want to reach out to you, Michelle, is there a website that's good to find you? And go ahead and share
Sure.
that so our listeners and viewers can.
Sure. You can find me at my website, michellesmission.net.
Great. All right. Anything else you want to share with our listeners today, Michelle?
I just want to encourage people to travel, whether it's with somebody that they love or on their own, because it's just too, life is just too short to let that get in your way.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.